I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Juan Bruce, co-founder and CSO of Discover. Juan, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me here, Ashton.
You're very welcome. Excited to dive into Web3 social platforms, SocialFi, actually integrating more than just social media on chain, but actually the transactions and the financial aspect of it as well. I know you're on top of these kinds of things, and there's also a lot of issues in traditional social that I think need to be solved, and I know Web3 can solve those. So excited to dive into all that today. I'd love to start our conversation off with just hearing a little bit about yourself, and then we can dive into Discover and then all of the rest.
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm co-founder and chief strategy officer of Discover. We're a Web3 social network that enables SocialFi and transactions right on the platform. And my background is a mixture of design, engineering, being a startup founder, and being an investor. Right prior to this, I was both an investor at the crypto fund Enigma Capital and developed blockchain and fintech startups with big corporate partners at a company called 55 Foundry, or NAX. But my history is really the last 20 years of developing startups and technology and being an investor even before crypto existed. So started working on mobile devices at the design firm IDEO, worked on in-vehicle tech at BMW, worked on media tech, starting Robert Downey Jr.'s venture fund, and a company called Epoxy in the social media publishing space. So really, I've been doing things at the intersection of social and crypto for over a couple decades.
Very cool. And I feel like a social platform, there's bound to be one that takes off and has hundreds of millions to billions eventually users, because everyone's looking for, what's the next Facebook, what's the next Twitter, and of course it's going to have to be something to do with Web3, and there have been a lot of platforms that have attempted it in the past, and nothing's really broken through yet. Although there are a lot of issues in traditional social media that need to be solved. Maybe you can talk about when you and the team are planning Discover as a Web3 SocialFi, what are the main things that you're looking to solve, but also making sure that it's not too complicated for people?
Yeah. There's a lot, unfortunately, broken in Web2 social, and nothing against those companies. They're great people over there in a lot of cases, working on hard problems. But really, they have a bit of innovator's dilemma that's born out of when the platforms were born. There were times when we didn't have fintech, we didn't have models of distribution, and of course, we had no crypto at the time. So, you're seeing things like users not really having control of their communities and their social experience. But you also have problems with partners having very little control of how they're involved in the platform, having to fit into small little advertising boxes and models that really aren't very exciting or compelling for them. And then creators that struggle with monetization. When I think about social media, having worked in it a long time, it's really a trifecta of the user, the creator, and the partner or the brand, right? Mm-hmm. And balancing all of those so everybody's having a good experience and being able to do what they need to do is what makes social media work, right? Mm-hmm. And all three sides of those are unfortunately different degrees of broken in Web2 mm-hmm. social. And now it's really hard to change, right? Because once you have a big business model, and in a lot of cases you're reporting to the street on a quarterly basis, if you want to go from, the strictly ad-driven model to something that's more diversified, you're going to go through a trough, your stock's going to take a hit. And frankly, it's just really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like Facebook is the perfect example with that, where, it used to be the hot thing, and then they were making so much on just advertising, and then it got to the point where if you weren't paying them, whatever you posted, nobody would see it. And it was just like you had to pay to get seen, and then it's just got so saturated that people are like, you know what, I don't even want to use the platform anymore. Let's move elsewhere.
Yeah. Facebook's a really interesting example because it's probably the platform that, a dozen or so years ago had some of the most excitement from developers because they had something called the Open Graph. And that actually allowed creators, startups, big brands to build applications that could do very custom things. Now, the problem was they couldn't figure out how to monetize that. And that, again, comes back to Facebook being born in an era without fintech. I mean, there was hardly any fintech other than PayPal. And so that meant that all the monetization around those cool apps that were designed happened off platform and really didn't make any economic sense. So you had big companies like Zynga and Spotify that grew massively off of Facebook, but all monetizing off platform. And that's actually something we're trying to address today at Discover, in that we are building an open API that allows these third-party projects, other crypto projects that are looking for users and distribution, to plug in and publish into our newsfeed. But this time in Web3 Social on Discover, actually transact, which was something you could never do a dozen years ago in the Open Graph days. So really, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the other advantages of Web3 Social, but we're trying to build a platform that brings back this open API, brings back freedom for all three parties to build interesting stuff on social and monetize.
Yeah, I would love to dive into that deeper because I want to know, what are the things from Web2 Social that are good that you keep? For example, you have a feed, you have your profile, you have your friends, but then how do you attract them with those other finance functionalities, which may not be for everybody, at least at the start? I think some people, they don't want to get overwhelmed with, you have to do your wallet and, create a bank pretty much just to have a social. I just want to connect with my friends. But when you slip that in there in the right doses, then I feel like it really adds value to the platform.
Yeah. Well, you touched on an aspect that was actually the second motivation for starting Discover, and that's the complexity, right? So we were really building all these complex fintech apps with big corporate partners. And as you said, we realized nobody really wants to deal with that. And if you look historically at social, things like Facebook's login really won because people became comfortable with the platforms, and then it became a simple way to log into a whole diversity of different applications. And so it's our thesis that Web3 Social can serve a similar function, but even more importantly, smooth over all the complexity around wallets. So with Discover, you can, log in with Google login or a whole variety of wallet logins, sync a wallet, and then never think about it again. Never think about your wallet address to receive an airdrop, to tip in tokens, to transact tokens, to interact with an application in the feed. And then we also even give people a wallet if they're not a power user and they're not bringing their own wallet that's non-custodial, very much in the crypto ethos, and something that they can use. So we're really trying to smooth over the user experience. And then for the projects that are integrated with us, we're trying to make it so they have a smoother pipeline to users using the product and transacting, right? Which is what everybody designing something on the internet, Web 2 or Web 3, wants. It's like, how can I make that smooth to get the user through the experience?
Definitely. And one of the struggles I've seen traditionally with these Web3 socials is the network effect of the current platforms, the status quo. It's like everyone's on X or on Twitter, and there's a new one, but like none of my friends are there. So there's like that transitioning point where, okay, the functionality is better, but there's a bit of time it takes to get people over there. How do you as a team break through that to and break beyond just crypto enthusiasts to general people that want to use social media?
Yeah, well, I think the important thing is we're not trying to replace Twitter or replace Telegram or Discord. It's more the way that platforms like Instagram and Twitch coexisted with platforms like Facebook and Twitter. You would go to an Instagram because you wanted to have a photo-centric experience. You would go to Twitch because you were interested in gaming and you were looking for video content around that. So the reason that you come to Discover is because you're looking to actually engage with these projects and be able to do something transactional. If you look historically at crypto, it's fascinating because it was one of the first industries born after social media, and social media marketing was state of the art. And so it's been, intertwined with social media since the very beginning. But the irony is none of those Web2 social platforms were actually built for crypto. So you've ended up having to do some very clunky things like, on Discord, adding on bots and things like that. And so what we're really trying to provide is a place where all the crypto functionality is native and all of the community is centered on crypto, right? So obviously crypto Twitter has amazing reach, but you go on Twitter and you probably had a life before crypto. And so not everything you're looking at on Twitter is crypto centric, right? So it's whereas you go on Discover and you can really kind of geek out and have your crypto centric moments of the day. And if you're a trader or an NFT collector or an NFT gamer, you can really discover from other people like you and from your friends other crypto projects and applications that you're likely to like, right? And then there's a reward mechanic for being that enthusiast around crypto. Good community members are often receiving airdrops from our partners, right? So, and that's a benefit for the partners too, because partners are always trying to grow their communities. And previously the problem was, airdrops to grow a community were rather untargeted. They were just mass calls for wallet addresses on places like Twitter or Discord. And we have both a social graph and an asset graph to be able to find good users, right? So we can find users who have been active in relevant communities. We can find users who have received assets and airdrops previously, got involved in the community, and not just flipped them, not just acted like an airdrop hunter. So it's really a win-win for both sides in being this crypto-centric social destination.
That's great to hear. And I do really like that the airdrop experience as well has gotten more targeted. And, before it used to just be like, yeah, let's get more wallets. But since some of the major layer 2 networks really built a criteria of like, hey, you actually need to use our platform and experience it and be one of the first to experiment in new things. And I feel like with Discover that tells us the same story as well. Hey, come experience something and you may just be rewarded for being one of the innovators that are actually trying out the new technology.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And I want to dive more into the blockchain and crypto side of it since we're in that now.
Sure.
What is the best underlying technology for this social fi, and does it work with all coins, or sort of where do you start?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that we look at it is that there isn't one technology that we think will be a winner. It's more nuanced and it depends on your application, right? Similar to the world of Web 2, it's not like, everything in a startup is being run by Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. You have a whole stack of applications behind the scenes that are powering a consumer web experience. So I think that's what we're going to see, a few years from now in crypto. Now, that said, there's obviously enthusiasm around certain assets. And so what we are aiming to do is serve users for whatever assets they're passionate about. So we just launched on Solana several weeks ago. But prior to that, we had been originally built on top of ICP and serving assets in that ecosystem, and actually grew to over 200,000 users.
Wow.
Even before launching on Solana. Yeah, I mean, we don't do a ton of marketing, but by many accounts, we're actually the largest Web3 social network. And so our aim is really to get in and serve all of those communities and not just do it in a blanket way. So we launched on top of Solana, and we're spending a lot of time to build a social home for Solana. So that means working with, I believe, over 25, maybe 30 partners to build out communities, working with them on targeted airdrops, on building integrations and applications into the platform. So, for example, when we launched on Solana, we launched an alpha integration with Magic Eden, the NFT exchange, where you can buy NFTs right out of the newsfeed. So if a user shares a Magic Eden link to an NFT, that's visualized with a buy button. You can do the complete transaction without ever leaving the feed, right? And so really, our plan is to spend time with all these communities and make whatever assets work that the users want and that the projects want,
That's very cool. And I like that integration with the newsfeed. Sometimes you're just scrolling, looking for information. You don't want to go to an NFT marketplace and look through everything. But something just happens to pop up that's interesting. And the convenience of it being in the social feed, being able to purchase the NFT or sell your NFT, I feel like something that needs to happen.
Yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've done an experiment with social gaming, putting a mini game in the newsfeed where users could play the game and win an NFT that then they could go redeem in the larger game. We have experiments planned around DeFi. Obviously there's a lot of social conversation about DeFi, but then kind of the irony is you have to go and make a few hop, skips, and jumps over to other websites and do things with your wallet to be able to actually engage in those protocols. So the question for us is why not make it possible to learn about something and engage with it all in the same place? So really, we're now making a call to developers to go, use your imagination and think about what you would like to do in a social newsfeed to connect with users. And in 2024, we're going to be releasing our open API that's going to allow these third-party projects to integrate and publish these types of applications.
Very cool, Juan. And I'm curious how far you take that, or you should take that with DeFi and these other kinds of financial applications. At some point, you can interact with the DeFi platform through the social, but then also there's the wallet and there's swapping, trading, and all of a sudden you're a full-fledged exchange. Where's the balance between the financial transactions and the social part of it?
Yeah, so we're not trying to be the exchange, but I do see a future where we have multiple exchanges that are interacting with users through our platform. We're the social glue between the applications, right? And, we're really trying to cross-pollinate these applications, right? So if we find you're interested in one type of DeFi on one chain, and you might be interested in another DeFi application that has similar aspects and learning. And then in terms of, exchanges, obviously we were just talking about NFTs. Some exchanges are, specific to a certain type of asset. But you may find that, let's say you're into gaming and you're doing gaming NFTs, that you're participating in games across chains, right? So being able to connect a new exchange to a user that's jumped into a new game that needs to get set up there, these are all totally rational things. So as it stands now, we don't really have any limits on what we see in terms of the integration, but it's a great point from a regulatory perspective. We are not, being the exchange.
Yeah, definitely. And the Open API integration sounds like it's going to open a lot of doors in 2024. I'm curious if there's anything else that people should be excited about. You guys have had great growth so far, hundreds of thousands of users, and crypto's still small. But I know that there's a lot of people that are eager to find a Web3 social platform. I feel like there's and it's nice to try it out, but also to get people to stick around, I think is the key. What do you think else is going to make them stick around? What's either in the platform right now or what you guys have planned in store for this roadmap?
Yeah, well, essentially the Open API is what we're talking about now, but we're looking at ways that users can monetize. And obviously, they could do that by building open API applications. But we also believe that other startups will build applications to help users monetize on top of the open API on behalf of us, right? Mm-hmm. So we're really trying to balance this ecosystem. And in some ways, like crypto often does, it starts with the developers. And so that's starting with the open API. But then I said, social media is always this triangle. So we're thinking about how do we make the value proposition for the user and the creator in addition to the partner that's building. And so part of what we're doing and talking to the early alpha partners is talking about this dynamic, because a lot of these partners are really strong in crypto, but haven't had the experience in working behind the scenes in Web2 social. So we're kind of educating on like, here's the dynamic. Here are the needs that we're hearing from both the users and the creators. And we're encouraging people to help build some of those applications. Now, we're not ready to talk about it yet, but we may actually, as an example, build some of those applications internally just to illustrate, and then get developers to go, okay, let's do your version of it. But I guess the thing I would say behind that is, we already have a bit of a points and leveling system on Discover. So users are earning points for good posts, good behavior. I'd say it's advantageous to be an early user and start collecting those points, because we have big things in mind to be kind of beneficial around those points, and to also, as part of the API, allow our partners to understand where users kind of sit in the leveling of the platform, who are great creators and things like that.
Very cool. It's great to have a bit of a gamification and also building points and something to work towards. You mentioned there's a lot of different ways to register or to log in for the platform. What is the main way? Do you just go to the website, or are there mobile apps? How can people get an account that don't have one?
Yeah, you go to the website, which is discover.one, and Discover is spelled DSCVR .one. If you want to learn more about us in old Web2 social media, you can follow us on DSCVR one at Twitter. But go to the website. If you have any questions for me, you can hit me up on Twitter at jbruce, JBRUCE. And come check it out. You can, now log in with Phantom Wallet, or if you're not even that kind of crypto forward, you can log in with a username and password, or Google, and get started. It's pretty straightforward, and every day we're making it more and more streamlined and better designed.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to checking it out and accumulating some points, and I will definitely be following along for the updates in 2024. It sounds like there could be some great incentives and alignments for those early crypto users. So thank you so much, Juan, for coming on. I will leave the link to the Discover platform in the show notes below as well to make it easy and for your connections. And all the best with everything Web3 social moving forward. Let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Ashton.